Hello, everyone, and welcome to Novel Hour, or live show we do here every Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Time, streaming on our respective channels. Today, we're super excited to get into some of the best audiobooks out there that we've listened to. We're going to get into what we're watching, we're going to get into new releases, book news, gossip, and more. But before we get into everything, upcoming shows, so mark your calendars. Next week, we're going to get into some Caribbean theme book recommendations. So Caribbean books by Caribbean authors, so mark your calendars for those. Then we're going to get into beach reading recommendations. We already did our summer reading episode, so if you want some recommendations now, check that out. But of course, we're going to give you some beach reading books to add to your list as well. And then coming up in the weeks ahead, we have Aliens, we have Disability Pride, we have books with weddings, and lots more. I know that sounds like a mixed bag, but that's what we do here. We provide you with variety. So now we're going to get into some of the best audiobooks we've been listening to. I'm going to go first, so I'm going to kick Francesca off here. And I'm really excited to get into audiobooks. Now, audiobooks are very particular for me. I'm definitely more the purist. I love to read a physical book, then I'll read an ebook on my Kindle. But when it comes to audiobooks, I'm very specific. I personally lean towards mysteries and thrillers and memoirs when it comes to audiobooks. So the first book I'm going to share with you is a mystery and thriller that I've been sharing here on the channel for a bit, and I'm happy to report the audiobook is good too. It's the Retirement Plan by Sue Hinsenbergs, and this is narrated by two people, Kiri Sandy and John Pirala. I hope I'm saying their names right. If not, I butchered it and I'm sorry. But anyway, in this one, we have four lifelong friends who are expecting to be living their relaxing best life now that they're retired, but then their husbands blew their retirement funds, their nest egg, and everything on a really bad investment. But they have decided, look, we're not going to let our golden years go down the tubes. So they hatch a plan so that they can cash in on their husband's life insurance. So hijinks, fun, comedy, and everything goes on from there. I think the audiobook is absolutely brilliant. So I read both the physical and listened to the audio, and it's absolutely great. Now, continuing in me loving to listen to mysteries and thrillers, I do want to talk about Geneva Rose and The Perfect Divorce. Now, this audiobook has a full-on cast. I know I'm going to butcher names, but we have Mozhan Morano, Eden, Adam Les White, J.S. Aquin, Brittany Presley, and Andy. Now, again, I probably butchered the names, but those are the narrators. So full cast audiobook here. And this is what happens when we have two top divorce lawyers getting married, and then everything falls apart. That's a part of the whole premise for The Perfect Divorce. You know, they know every clause, they know every loophole, they know everything. The marriage unravels in a really messy fashion. You do kind of get Legally Blonde vibes and Gone Girl vibes. So just imagine putting those two together. That's what you're going to have here. Again, the full cast audiobook just really brings everything to life. So from the heated courtroom clashes, the private meltdowns, just everything. You're going to be grinning, you're going to be laughing, you're going to be gasping at the betrayals, but also, you know, you're going to have to pick a side in the end as we see this divorce unravel. Now, in addition to loving mysteries and thrillers in audio form, I also love a good nonfiction book, more specifically a memoir. So the audiobook I want to recommend today is Matriarch by Tina Knowles. Now, I know this book has been selected by Oprah's book club, so that is giving it a lot of press. Plus, it's by the mother of one of pop culture's biggest artists out there. And I say artists, multiple, because it's not just Beyonce, it's also Solange and Kelly. And now she has her grandbabies out on stage as we see them playing a part in the Cowboy Carter tour. But speaking specifically to Matriarch, this is narrated by Miss Tina Knowles herself. We also have Beyonce on there. We have Solange, we have Kelly Rowland, and we have Angie Beyonce. So in this book, we learn about Tina's life and what it's like to raise global superstars. But we also get her background about growing up in Galveston, Texas, how she got out of her small town and built her own life, but also the lives of her daughters as well. We also get intimate relationship stories from her about her marriage as well. And then, you know, as the book progresses, we get the Beyonce, Solange, Kelly, and Angie bits as well. So it becomes not just her memoir, but because it's audiobook form, it's like a whole family chorus chiming in. So you're really going to feel the heartbreak, but also the pride that a mom has. It's also very inspiring. And again, just having Miss Tina narrate her book, but also having the voices of those around her as well. Yeah, it was really brilliant. So those are my three audiobooks, all three new releases, and I think perfect for summer listening. Fran, what did you think about my audiobook selections?
Love the selections. I have to co-sign on the Retirement Plan. It was such a good audiobook. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yes, so much fun. Something about mysteries and thrillers do it for me on
Yeah,
audio.
perfect. Agreed.
Yes, and also memoirs.
Yeah.
I will listen to a memoir audiobook. But I'm excited to hear about your audiobook selections for this week.
So I'm going a little bit darker with my audiobook selections, but I also wanted to be very specific and tell you guys about duet narration, which I think is kind of like all the rage, especially when it comes to romances right now. So the difference is obviously there's different kinds of narration, and there's the single narrator, meaning the narrator will read through the whole book. There's dual narration, they alternate the chapters, but duet narration is where actually each narrator is basically reading off their character's points of view. And when there's dialogue, they're also doing it kind of in tandem. So it feels very much like a performance. And I think that's one of the reasons why it is so popular right now, is because it really brings you in. It's almost like you're listening to a movie. So they're acting everything out and it feels very realistic and immersive. So duet narration, I have 3 picked out. They're all a little bit darker. So I wouldn't necessarily say they're like summary reads, but you can read them anytime because they're really, really good. So the first one I've talked about here many, many times. Actually, all 3 of them are going to be things I've talked about here. So the first one is Lights Out by Navessa Allen. It is narrated by Elena Wolf and Jacob Morgan. So I think pretty much this book doesn't need introduction, but it is about a masked man who kind of posts thirst traps on the internet. The heroine is one of his fans. They a little bit connect through comments and things like that. And he ends up breaking into her house and kind of stalking her. And their relationship goes from there. So now, obviously, the book is a little bit dark, not super dark. It's great for beginners. It's definitely spicy, slightly unhinged, but it's a lot of fun. It's a great wild ride. And I think the duet narration in this one is essential. Elena Wolf does a really good job with Allie's like dry humor, but also all props to Jacob Morgan. I think that was one of the reasons the audiobook for this became so popular and really made this book explode, in my opinion, is the fact that Jacob Morgan does that morally gray hero really well. And I think also it has the energy and the vibe of the character, because there's a lot of humor mixed in with some of the darker elements, and he really captured that really well. So I think that it really sells you on the story, and the fact that they're doing it together just brings you in a way that other types of narration doesn't. So lots of banter, lots of kink with this one, of course, the stalker, and lots of tension. This one is one that feels totally electric and a bit obsessive. So really enjoy it. The second one is Scythe and Sparrow by Bryn Weaver. Now, this is book 3 in the Ruinous Love trilogy. So if you've read Butcher and Blackbird, that's the same series. This is book 3 and the final one in that series. This one is narrated by Samantha Brentmore and Eric Nolan. So again, duet narration. And it's kind of like romantic comedy, but dark and stabby at the same time. So our heroine, Rose, in this one literally is a circus performer, but she's also an occasional serial killer. And Fionn, the hero, is a cinnamon roll small town doctor who is recovering from his own heartbreak, and he has to also nurse her back to health. So that's kind of the trope in that one. And the duet narration in this one is just perfect. Samantha gives Rose kind of like a bit of calm energy, a little bit low key, but also brings in that element of a slightly terrifying edge, because yes, she is a serial killer. And Eric Nolan is a bit more of the wounded charm of our small town doctor. So they really do such a great job at bringing the personalities of the characters and of course how they relate to each other. So they do a great job. This is definitely more of that performance that you see like narrators being like actors. I think that when you get into the duet narration, you really feel that. And then the third one is Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. This is narrated by Aaron Shedlock and Stella Hunter. So this one is for dark academia lovers. This is set at a haunted island, which is basically a college, forbidden professor-student romance, lots of slow burn, gothic tension, all of that. And the book itself is very atmospheric, and the narration really brought that feel to life, which they did really well. Stella Hunter really blends kind of like the vulnerability and grit of the heroine, because she is a very multifaceted character. She really brings that to life as you're experiencing also her uncovering secrets about her past, which is why she went to this college, and also the grief of dealing with what happened to her mother and all of these things. And of course, Aaron Shetlock, he portrays the hero perfectly. He's broody, bit aggressive, slightly a little unhinged, and definitely kind of a hot professor. He is kind of a haunted, morally ambiguous Dr. Death, as they call him. So definitely you have 2 characters that collide really well in juxtapositions of 2 very different worlds. And the narration in this one really brings that layer of intensity, also like a romantic danger to life, which I really, really enjoyed. So yeah, those are my audiobook picks.
They sound amazing. I love the dark recommendations you always give. You know, they contrast my books. And maybe I'll finally get to Lights Out, but via an audio audiobook.
The audiobook is how I would recommend consuming all of those stories, I would say.
Awesome, awesome. Well, share your favorite audiobook recommendations in the comments. If you're joining us live, we just wrapped up sharing some of our favorite audiobooks, great books that you can listen to now and even later on in the year, any time of year really. And we'd love to hear from you. So share your thoughts in the comments. Replay crew, we'd love to hear from you as well. So let us know. We're going to get into what we've been watching lately. Then we're going to get into new releases. And then we're going to get into some bookish news and gossip. But we're going to switch gears and get into what we're watching. So last week, I was super excited because I told everyone about the Life of Chuck movie. I'm really curious if anyone has watched it since. It has been living in my brain rent-free. I watched it last week. And also it helps that I've been talking to people online about it. So they've been leaving comments on the blog and on social. So yes, it's still living in my head rent-free. I reread the story on the weekend, so that was lovely. But the movie I watched on the weekend, okay, was 28 Years Later. Now, I have mixed thoughts about it, and I'm just going to start by saying, I often say, my husband is a true tester on movies, and he's like, no, do not watch this one. So he's a heavy no, and I'm like, because again, I'm always trying to find the good in things. So 28 Years Later is a zombie film, and he's very heavy on his zombie films. And he's saying if you're a lover of zombie and apocalyptic films, you're going to be disappointed with this one because, you know, he's an OG fan, and there's so many greats out there. But the premise for this one is that there's this rage virus that has spread in the UK. It like escaped some laboratory or something. So like the whole country of the UK is in quarantine, meaning no one gets out, no one comes in, and you know, the virus has been taking over. Now, there is an island where survivors are living. Now, based on the film, because I was picking out landmarks left and right, it's set in the northeast of England, which is like my stomping grounds, okay? And I could tell, okay, this is off the coast of the northeast, and based on just everything they're describing, I can tell you right now, it's set on Holy Island. So there's this island off the north coast of the UK. It's somewhere, the causeway is near Newcastle. So this is a very real thing. You can only get there when the tide is low. You can drive across, walk across, whatever. That's the only way you can get to the island. So you have to time your visits. You have to check, okay, when is it high tide? When is it low tide? Because if you're over there or if you're on the mainland and high tide comes, you have to wait till the tide changes to, you know, make your passage back either way. So the survivors are on Holy Island. They are defending it because they don't want the zombie people coming over. The zombie people are mostly on the island. And then we see a little boy, he's coming of age, he's around 12. He goes with his dad to the island. They will like scavenge for things. They'll try and get, you know, food and things and whatever on the mainland, but they're trying to avoid the zombie people. So he goes with his dad. There's a whole zombie attack, obviously. He was practicing on the island of, you know, like shooting his bow and arrow, but obviously on the day it happens, he freezes, for lack of a better word. They make it back to the island only by the skin of their teeth. Their dad makes this whole big thing, and then he realizes, oh wait, there's a doctor on the island that could possibly help his mom because his mom isn't doing too well. So he now sneaks out of the island. Now he knows how to get over there and all the things, and he's really angry at his dad. I won't spoil it and say why, but he takes his mom, basically kind of mini kidnaps her because she's not all the way there. She's going through stuff, and he brings her on the island, and she's like, wait, we're on the mainland. What are we doing here? We're not supposed to be here. And he's like, we're going to take you to a doctor. So it's his journey of trying to get his mom to the doctor, and the doctor isn't a conventional doctor because this is zombie apocalypse time. Yeah. We see what happens there, and then we see him make a decision in the end to also kind of find himself and go on his own journey. He refuses to go back to the island and yada, yada, yada. I'm okay with it. Look, it was entertainment. My husband says no, he does not recommend. So I'm not going to recommend it to y'all. But if it comes on streaming, it can just be like Friday night entertainment. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Now, question for your husband. Does he think that it's good to watch it if you watch the 28 Days Later, which I think this is kind of like a direct sequel to?
See, that's a good question. That is a good question. I'll probably ask him. I don't know. But
just skip it and leave it the way.
Yeah, probably. Because I did see someone say online, like it was a prequel. I don't remember the 28 Days Later. Honestly, I don't even remember if I watched it. But the 28 Days Later, it is juvenile-ish. Mm-hmm. Juvenile-ish. That's what I'm saying. Like if you're a zombie apocalypse, you know, because if he could barely survive when he was there with his dad, right? How is he going to survive carrying his mom? His mom is on the struggle bus, okay? His mom is on the struggle bus. And then he decides, oh, I'm going to go out here later on. And the way how it ended, it has me thinking it might have another part of it as well. So
interesting.
What did you watch?
I have just been in my Animal Kingdom bag. I am now on season 5. So season 4, I liked. Season 5, I'm about halfway through. There's only 6, so I should be done by next week. I'm not liking it as much, for sure. I feel like it's probably the weakest, in my opinion, of all of the seasons.
4 is good, but 5 isn't.
Yeah, I'm a little. Obviously, there is something major that happens at the end of 4, which changes the dynamic of 5. And I'm kind of okay with that happening. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm not going to say what it is. So I'm okay with that happening because, again, last week I did the comparison to Sons of Anarchy. There's a very similar thing that happens in Sons of Anarchy. So I think that it was fine and probably was needed. But the dynamic of how they're going about the storyline now, it's a little bit underwhelming. So we will report back next week. Hopefully I'll be done and I'll be able to tell you, but it's still definitely worth it. Like, it's highly addictive to watch all the chaos and all the mess. And I mean,
I'm waiting for you to finish to kind of give a roundup, and I'll decide if I'm going down this rabbit hole. Let's see next week. You have to report back.
I'll report back.
Yes. All right. So everyone, if you're just joining us, welcome to Novel Hour Live. This is our weekly live show that we do here every Thursday, 12 noon Eastern time. We have a theme for the week. This week was audiobooks. We shared those recommendations. We just wrapped up what we're watching. And now we're going to get into new releases next. And then we're going to get into bookish news and updates and a little gossip too as well. Let's get into this week's new releases. Now, for the week of, let me see, because I forgot my dates. Wait, hold. This is a live show, everyone. Okay. This week's new releases for the week of June 22nd through to June 28th. All right, I want to get the dates right. So I'm going first. First new release I want to share with you is The Accidental Favorite by Fran Littlewood. Now, I absolutely adore this book. Spoiler alert, it was in the summer reading guide. So if you already snagged the guide, you know this. But this is a really brilliant story about 3 adult sisters. They go to a family holiday, a nice British countryside, but a family secret comes out during something that was being filmed. It went viral. And long story short is the father kind of reveals who his favorite child is. You know how you're not supposed to have sisters are kind of feeling it. So we kind of see what happens. So instead of a relaxing weekend with their parents, instead now they're going between each other, trying to navigate now the awkward dinners. And each sister has their own story. One has a newborn, one is dealing with social media stalking, another one has this really high-powered career who is crushing under it. So it just gives you relatable sister dynamics, in my opinion. I have an excerpt for this book, so I included a link in the video's description. So you can click through and read, a couple pages, see what you think about it. But I enjoyed it, so that's why I reached out to the publisher and say, hey, share something with me. Also new this week is Lisa Jewell's latest book, Don't Let Him In. Now, I'm a big Lisa Jewell fan, okay? This one promised to be a really twisty thriller, but it didn't work for me, okay? But we don't abandon our authors when they have a dud. I know I've been saying this a lot lately. I will still read a Lisa Jewell book, but this one in particular didn't work for me, but maybe it will work for you. So in this one, there's a dad who dies suddenly. Then we have a daughter who is kind of shocked. Her mom starts dating someone new. So that just really adds into the dynamic. Wait, dad just died. You're dating someone new. It's a lot of changes. And then we see the real world meet up with her mom talking to this person online. And we kind of get this person who she's dating point of view, the daughter's point of view, and just lots of layers being peeled back. There's lots of deceit in here. Again, I'm not enthusiastic about it because it didn't work for me. It's supposed to be a slow burn, but it just fizzled out in the end. I always love female characters. I think the characters, nothing was happening and men are behaving badly as always. So, if you want to give it a read, give it a read. But again, we don't not read our authors when they're failing. Next up, though, is Megan Abbott's El Dorado Drive. This one is a more dark what-if situation. We really get into, I guess you could say financial crimes, because there's a real life pyramid scheme happen. One person is fleeing their money troubles and goes back home. Then the sisters in that family, they're rolling in the money and you're like, ooh, where's all of this money coming from? Well, it's this mysterious women's group called The Wheel. It promises life-changing payouts, of course, like any good pyramid scheme does. And but before you know it, now our main character who had the money troubles is now in it deep. And we kind of see how the tensions ratchet up because we have family involved, because the other sisters were in on this scheme. So we see what happens when family gets really stressed under financial strain. We also have another family member. We have a niece coming in there as well, who is kind of seeing through the facade of everything. So yeah, there's betrayal, resentments, and all kinds of things, another high stakes thriller. Now we're switching gears. There is a romance that is out that I enjoyed. So this one is When Jarvi Dumped Mari by Mia Sosa. This is so funny. I felt it was heartwarmingly funny. This is a friends to lovers romp. So we kind of see, these two people who are besties and each other's, respective wing people since college. But of course, they had a moment back in the day when one ghosted one, but fast forward now, one is supposed to be getting married, but then one realizes, hey, I still kind of really like this person. So they volunteer to kind of be a maid of honor situation to expose the fiance's, fake life and just all the cracks and stuff. So we see a lot of old feelings, hijinks, laugh out loud moments. I enjoyed it. It was a ride. And then finally, we have Finders Keepers by Sarah Adler. Again, another romance. This is more cozy adventure with, I feel, a side of nostalgia. We have two people who were like teenage treasure hunters. At least they were until they got busted by the police. Now, years later, we see them back in their hometown for reasons you'll find out, and they reunite and they're saying, you know what? Let's go back to that one, treasure hunt find that we were supposed to do, but we never got through to doing it. So we see them kind of going back to that. I think I enjoy this because of the sibling style bickering. Like these are friends. There's just a certain level of comfortability when you've known someone for a really long time, and kind of going back to childhood games and stuff kind of become the backdrop of grown up opportunities and discoveries and just, learning to love and trust someone all over again. But anyway, those are my 5 new releases. Fran, I know you have some as well.
Yeah, so I'm going to start off with a historical romance. It's Look Before You Leap by Virginia Heath. This is actually a historical rom-com, so a Regency Grumpy Sunshine. It's the second in the series, but you can read it as a standalone. So here we have a grumpy Viscount who is forced into a house party full of debutantes because his mom is determined to marry him off before his 30th birthday. Now, our heroine Lottie is just a lady's companion who comes to this house party, and she was basically raised by a bunch of dudes. So she climbs trees, she rides horses in her breeches, and she cannot act like a lady to save her life. Of course, she is obviously the one that catches his eye and is not technically marriage material for a Viscount. So it's got a bit of an enemies to lovers vibe, some forced proximity with the house party, and class differences, of course, as well. Lots of banter and charm. It's a great, fun romp. The second one's a bit more dark. It's One Dark Kiss by Rebecca Zanetti. This one is a forbidden modern twist on Snow White. And it is basically a prison revenge romance with a billionaire trope. So we've got Alexei, who just got out of Max Security Prison. And he's not exactly innocent, of course, but he is not over what was stolen from him. So now that he's free, he's ready to burn the world down, of course, to get it back. And his new lawyer, Rosalie, is smart, steady, and not ready for how off the charts that chemistry is going to be with her client, who is not the best person. So if you like your romance with a bit of danger and some revenge, morally gray heroes, then this one is probably a good one for that. I do have a thriller as well. It is A Happy Marriage by A.R. Torre. This is more of a domestic thriller. The main female character is a homicide detective, and she is married to a psychiatrist. So their marriage has worked really well for a really long time. On the surface, they're perfect, but under that, lots of secret. Both of them have things to hide. She's got something to hide from her past, and he might be actually hiding bodies, literally. And of course, there's going to be something that brings all of those issues to the surface because there's a case that she's working on that overlaps with one of his patients. So things have to unravel from there. So if you like messy marriages, definitely this is a good one for that. For contemporary romance, I have Writing Mr. Wrong by Kelly Armstrong. This is about the female heroine. She is a debut author. So she just wrote her first novel, just releasing. It's a historical about a grumpy Highlander. And the main inspiration for her character was her high school crush, who is now a pro hockey player. And he had humiliated her in high school. So there was like a whole to-do about, how they fizzled out, and they weren't dating per se. So she's really resentful about what happened then. So she inspires her hero on him, but he's kind of a douche. It's kind of like one of those heroes that is a douche and a villain in a way. And so the talk shows, as she's promoting her debut, get wind of this, and he's a pro hockey player. So of course they're going to bring him in and do like a whole viral thing about, oh, well, did you know that this guy is, the hero is inspired by you? So their story goes viral. They hadn't talked to each other in a really long time. And now both of their PRs are like, well, how about we do a little fake dating situation? Because that will work really well. And they end up, having to do that and having to deal with what happened before. Now, I will say that the hero of this story will maybe grate on your nerves a little bit because he's one of those guys that cannot understand why something, like, he cannot see what he's doing wrong. Just it doesn't compute. Like, that's why he didn't understand what happened before, or why she's mad now, or even the things he's doing on the spot. So if you can get past that, because again, we don't abandon our authors, but if you can get past that, it's a really fun book. There's lots of like funny moments, lots of, the quirky things, the fake dating, the virality of all of that. So it is still a good time. And then the last one is A Magic Deep and Drowning by Hester Fox. Now, this one is a dark, moody historical fantasy, and it's a reimagining of The Little Mermaid. It's set in the 1650s Netherlands, lots of political tension, some creepy sea bargains, and our heroine who is torn between her duty and her desire. So Clara is about to marry for freedom until she meets a mysterious man from the sea who is very much not who he says he is. So there's myth, magic, ancient deals. And I think if you like the familiar, this gives kind of a rich historical gothic fantasy vibe, which I personally really love. And Hester Fox, I can never do any wrong. I love her books. So
I'm looking forward to reading this one. So this one is on my TBR, but I have to say, writing Mr. Wrong worked for me. He's a hero that will grate on you, but it worked for me.
I wanted to choke him a little bit once in a while. But
Oh my gosh. But let us know your thoughts in the comments about these new releases. Let us know if there are any books that we didn't cover that you're excited to read. Again, share your thoughts in the comments, share them live. Replay crew, we'd love to hear from you as well. Okay, so we are switching gears. We're going to get into the news section. We have some bookish news to get into. The first thing that's top on the list is that Sarah J. Maas, this isn't shocking to me, but Sarah J. Maas has inked a multi-year worldwide deal with IMG for licensing, okay? And the Hollywood Reporter has the exclusive. I have a link in the video's description so that you can, read more about the article. But essentially the headline says, A Court of Thorns and Roses author, Maas, will, with IMG licensing, extend her well-loved characters beyond the page across apparel, beauty, lifestyle, food, games, and immersive fan experiences. So of course, we know Sarah J. Maas is best known for her literary books, A Court of Thorns and Roses, and the whole franchise of those books. So she signed a deal with IMG, and this is a robust licensing program. It's going to span her entire fictional universe and just kind of create new products and new things for her fan base, which we know are very, very voracious. She has sold over 70 million English copies worldwide. Again, English copies, translated into 38 different languages. And she has been dubbed as one of the most influential authors of her generation, with a knack in the romantic series genre. The romantasy genre. She also has her other series, the Throne of Glass and Crescent City series. And this is going to develop all her characters. They're saying toys, games, collectibles, cosplay, and other immersive fan experiences. Her rep said she's very excited. It's an incredible honor and all the things. And she's really excited to launch this new project. I mean, Fran, what did you think about Sarah J. Maas just kind of really going all out there with this new deal?
Like you, I'm not surprised that she's getting this deal. I think that she's been doing really well with whatever licensing she has worked in the past, which has been very on an individual basis. And I know that everyone that ever gets a licensing deal for that and they're able to sell merch, they sell a lot because, like you said, the fans are voracious. What I'm actually most interested is not so much of sure, there's going to be a lot of sales for apparel and beauty and whatever and all of those, but I'm excited for, not that I have read, I read one book, that's it. But I am excited to see what they're going to do with the immersive fan experiences, because I think there's going to be a lot of money potential in something like that, because in my mind, the fans of the series are very much like Harry Potter kind of fans, where they would fully dress on and go to some kind of event. So I'm curious to see what they're going to do with that side of things. I think there's a lot that can be explored, and I think there's a lot that can make a lot of money in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a big thing on the list of things that they're saying that they would provide is apparel, immersive experiences, cosplay. I found it very interesting that they highlighted that in the press release. So yeah, and bringing characters to life, I'm here for it. Even home decor, wine and spirits, food and beverages. They really are going to go all out. I really think this is going to be like the Harry Potter universe. Where you have cookbooks, you have this, you have that, you have ingredients, you have pre-made things. So clearly Sarah J. Maas is doing something right, and her reps are securing that for and the immersive world she's created. Let us know your thoughts in the comments on Sarah J. Maas inking a worldwide deal for her licensing and bringing her characters and her world to life in different ways. Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, also on the news desk is TikTok. And I kind of feel like TikTok has been in the news for many different reasons, but this time it's going to be for a reason you probably won't expect. So the New York Times is reporting TikTok's owners wanted to publish books, not anymore. Now, while the New York Times reported this, I do want to give credit to the content creator Bros and Pros on Threads, because this is where I first saw the post. Bros and Pros said on Threads, that didn't take long. TikTok's first attempt to become a book publisher has failed. I feel terrible for the authors who sold to Eighth Note Press and are left to deal with the fallout. So again, you can find that content creator Bros and Pros on Threads, and they shared the New York Times article in addition to their thoughts. Now, essentially what happened is Eighth Note Press was created as a publishing house by the Chinese technology company ByteDance, which is also the owner of the platform TikTok. Now, they had big ambitions to become a publisher. So they launched Eighth Note Press in the summer of 2023. So this company is only 2 years old. And again, they have now closed their doors and they have said, look, we are no longer publishing anything. We're shutting down. However, they have transferred the rights back to the authors. I want to make that very clear. The whole idea, though, was because TikTok was such a huge platform where viral endorsements, posts, and all the things could really transform books into bestsellers overnight. But it seems now, to me, it is very clear as day that having this big platform that turns books into these mega sellers is not the only component that is needed to build a successful publishing business. Because on May 8th, they began informing their writers that they were shutting down. However, this became public June 20th. So the article I'm quoting from the New York Times was written by Alexandra Atler, dated June 20th, 2025. You can find a link in the video's description to read more. But essentially, Francesca, I mean, how did you feel? First of all, did you that TikTok was out with this press? Because I had no clue. And then now to find out 2 years later. So it's a publishing house, number one, I personally never heard about. But within 2 years, they're shutting down. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Same. First thing is I didn't even know this existed. So this is me finding out that this was even a publisher. Now, I will say it is really hard to compete with Amazon when you're trying to be a platform where people consume or I guess purchase books. They are the biggest, period. And I think what they were trying to do was, in a way, kind of compete with that KDP program because they thought, well, we already have the people on the platform that are consuming the content. And if we give them a way to, this is just my opinion, we give them a way to just do like a one click and they get the book, it's going to work out good for us because we already have the platform and we already have the audience. And it's really not that simple. I mean, a great example for that would be Apple Book, like the iBooks app. A lot of people have Apple devices, whether that is an iPad or an iPhone or whatever. That does not mean that iBooks sells even a quarter of what Amazon and Kindle sell. There's a lot more that goes into publishing. And I think that people think it's such an easy thing. Like, oh, I'm just going to hire a couple of editors. I need to hire a cover designer. And then it's smooth sailing. And I already have a platform where they're going to sell. There's a lot more to it. And I think that people run into that when they think that, oh, I'm going to just start publishing. There's a few of those people on TikTok as well, like trying to set up shop with small press. It is difficult. It's not an easy business. So I am not surprised.
Yeah, it's not an easy business. I also think we reported here during one of our lives about someone who had set up a publishing house and they were defending the fact that this is a traditionally published thing. And people are trying to point out, hey, we know you're providing a traditional model, but for all intents and purposes, this is not traditionally published. But I think because, again, the TikTok hype, which, look, again, it's for good reason, is that, TikTok sells books and TikTok does this and it does that. But the reality of the situation is there is more to selling books than having a platform where things can get hype. Now, the article also goes on to say that the fact that this press by TikTok's owners is just, shutting down, it was very surprising because, again, even though they started in the summer of 2023, last October, so October 2024, executives announced a partnership with the publisher Zando to print out-of-print editions of its books and distribute them to physical bookstores. So I found that very interesting that they were going to Zando so they could get the print editions and distribute them. And the plan, they had a decent plan, in my opinion, to release 10 to 15 books a year, focus on romance is young adult fiction. They did indicate to agents they're going to expand into science fiction, fantasy. But then, just look, that is it. Authors feel very slighted. It's going to be especially hard for authors to move forward because one author who commented for this article with the Times also goes on to say, if this is your first book, it's also going to be very rough because then everyone is going to look back and say, oh, your first book, you published it and then it went out of print. And then it's also going to be hard for another publisher to pick up your book. So there's going to be a lot of fallout from this. Folks are not happy.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that also, I feel like they were really quick to call it quits. Just if you start something, you got to give it time. So even if things were getting a little bit more complicated, you have to give it time. So I don't know. I feel like that was a rush decision on their part to just, pull the plug. But
yeah, I mean, we
I
still,
get it.
yeah, it's just, there's a lot of unknown. And even the article, ended on that note. They did reach out to the folks at Eighth Note Press and TikTok, and they haven't heard back. And basically, yeah, authors are devastated. But we would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on just everything around this publishing press? I mean, did you hear about it? The fact that the article goes on to say they had acquired 30 books during this time. So it's very interesting. Share your thoughts in the comments. Did you know about this publisher? How do you feel that it's closing down? And the fact that TikTok is trying to be a publisher, it is very interesting. We do have a comment from Eve. Eve said, you would think authors would be more secure with a big company like TikTok, but I guess not. Eve, you're absolutely right, because also in the article, it says the authors who went with this publisher, they did so because they were very excited about who the parent company was in terms of TikTok. And that was a huge appeal to them. They were like, oh yeah, we're gonna go with them for this reason, only to be disappointed. Eve said, I didn't realize they got as far as acquiring books. Yes, 30, according to the article by the Times.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I actually think that it is true, right? So you think that TikTok is a big enough company. And I think I guess the lesson to learn here is, as much as somebody's a big company, you need to know, where are they big, right? In what space? So they are a big social media company. And I would even say they've proven that they are a big, kind of like a selling, buying whatever platform, kind of like Amazon replacement. But when it comes to publishing, it is a whole beast. So I wouldn't trust anybody.
It is rough. It's really rough publishing. I think that my personal thoughts and feelings, especially with my experience with the publishing industry, there is a reason why the big imprints are so old. There's a reason why we see imprints come and go. Even within big publishers, imprints come and go. That isn't new. There's a reason small presses come and go. You can have a vast amount of resources, but that is not enough to maintain a publishing model. Publishing is very old. And what you find with very old is that relationships are very set. People are very kind of stuck in their way. The fact that TikTok had to reach out to Zando, which look, it's no shade. It's good business to get print books done. You might be thinking, well, you have your own money. Why aren't you doing it yourself? Why aren't you taking advantage of these other resources? I think and this is going to be very controversial to say, I think publishing is one of those things where it is like a wheel. You can't reinvent the wheel. The wheel is already made, but what you can do is improve on the wheel, right? So you can add things to the wheel, but at the end of the day, it's still a wheel. Does that make sense? So if you want publishing to succeed, unfortunately, there are certain things you have to follow that the old model does, and you also need to give it time. I think 2 years was really short.
2 years is nothing. In fact, the proof in the 2 years is nothing is Amazon itself. So Amazon, I remember when Amazon publishing, like if you talk about like romance, it would be like Montlake and all the different imprints, but Amazon publishing started out, I was already blogging when that happened. And nobody was reading those books. Like it took a while before people started like digesting that and started being willing and open to even reading some of those releases. So I think that it is a process, and I think that they just jumped the gun and didn't stick with it long enough, because I think eventually probably it would have worked out for them, but they need time. It's not something, don't get into a publishing house or publishing books if you think it's going to be quick just because you have your name recognition. It takes time, and I think that's where they went wrong for all of these authors, because if they had stuck with it, I think that this would have probably worked out.
Yeah, I agree. But let's continue to have a conversation about this. Share your thoughts in the comments. Replay crew, we'd love to hear from you as well. Okay, switching gears, we're going to get into some book adaptation news. And the first book adaptation news is the fact that I'm going to say Mind F because we're on YouTube. Okay. The TV series. Sophia Stallone is developing the series adaptation of the Mind F books for Amazon MGM Studios. This was reported through Deadline. I've included a link in the video's description so you can read more about this. I mean, this series has a whole cult following, okay? A whole cult following. The article on Deadline kind of goes on to say that Stallone championed the project and will executive produce it alongside Erin Simon, Matt Barris, and D. Matt Geller for Balboa Productions, as well as Tonya Owens, who are searching for a showrunner as of this being published. And yeah, they're really excited for this popular psychological thriller book series to come on the big screen. They're saying this book has become a phenomenon with over 200 million reads, a substantial fan base across BookTok and Goodreads, and it has made numerous most addictive lists. So people are really excited about this serial killer story. I mean, Fran, I know you know this series in and out. What are your thoughts on the adaptation being picked up?
First of all, I'm excited because I always wanted to see this on the screen. I think it will translate really, really well. Now, the fact that I know nothing about Sophia Stallone. Apparently, she's been running some kind of a book club as well, like one of those celebrity book clubs. But she has done a lot of talking on Instagram about this. So from what I gather, she is a fan of the series. And I think that there's probably going to be enough, I guess from a reader's perspective and a reader's point of view, I think she's going to do it justice, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, because I do think that she sees the book from the reader perspective first, but then also obviously Stallone. She is from a super popular family in Hollywood. So you know that she's also coming in with a lot of experience from that side. So I think that she'll probably be able to merge those two things well, because even though we all want to see everything translated from a book to a movie, that cannot happen because you can't make movies that are 10 hours long. So I think that she will do probably a good job merging the two things. I feel like it's safe enough because it is in the hands of a fan. And I also read somewhere that I think the family of the author, because the author passed away, but I do think that the family is going to be involved from what I read somewhere as well. So that probably is also a good thing because, you know, somebody at least is going to make sure that these things stay consistent and they deliver on something that fans can get behind and can get excited about. So I'm overall, so far from what we've seen, very excited. Of course, I'm going to be side-eyeing it until we get a cast. And I definitely have already talked about my fantasy cast. I have that on the blog that you can check it out. But I think that's going to be important, not necessarily 100% for how they look, but personality, because especially for our female main character, who is a female serial killer, I think that they really need to get the person that transfers that emotion, because there is a reason why she's killing people. And there is also a whole experience that you're going through. I think the most important part of this story is you are seeing very gory and very horrific things that are happening, but you're at the same time having empathy for her. Mm-hmm. So I think that they need the right person to translate that so it doesn't just come across as just another serial killer. So I definitely compare always the show to Dexter, and I think that show, you were able to really get that from it. So I'm really hopeful that they'll deliver with that. So overall, I'm just super excited though.
Yeah. Well, Sophia Stallone told Deadline that the main character, Lana Myers, wrecked me in the best way. That is a quote. She also says, I was a fan long before I became a producer, and now I'm fighting for Lana's story like it's my own. We're not watering it down. We're telling this story the way the author always intended. Raw, fearless, and unforgettable. We owe that to the fans and the author. So yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments that there is going to be an adaptation of the Mind F series. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Okay, switching gears, we have another adaptation news to bring to you. This one is coming from Variety. Variety is a source for this adaptation news, that there is going to be an adaptation for Brynne Weaver's bestseller, Butcher and Blackbird. Okay, again, there's a link in the video's description to the article on Variety. Here's a book cover, just in case you're not familiar. But yeah, basically, we're gonna have another book adaptation. This is a serial killer romance. So this is the first installment, by the way, of a trilogy, which was released in October. It is a New York Times, USA Today, Publishers Weekly bestseller, also Book Talk favorite. And she signed a 7-figure deal for her upcoming dark rom-com trilogy. So clearly people are very excited about the author and what is going to happen. They're saying that Butcher and Blackbird will follow, like the book, 2 competing killers who target other serial killers as they attempt to one-up each other. As their unlikely bond grows into something deeper, they start to wonder if a future together could ever be possible. So yes, that's what you can expect in this adaptation. Eve says, so many serial killers, LOL. Yes, clearly they have a type. We also want to say hi to Tiff, who said she jumped in late. Hi, Tiff. But yes, catch the replay. We talked about lots of things, lots and lots of things today. But Fran, what are your thoughts on this adaptation news?
Super excited about this one. Again, in fact, when I recommended my audiobooks, it's book 3 in this series. I think that this is probably another one that's so perfect to be adapted on screen because yes, it's serial killers, but it's also romantic comedy. So we're going to get that humor. It's dark humor. Yes, there is murder and terrible things, but there is also, I don't know, this book in particular is so interesting because the author was able to take very dark themes and very dark things that happen and you're reading them, and you feel like you should be troubled by what I'm reading, and you're actually laughing, or you're having empathy for both of these serial killers, because I mean, let's be clear, they are serial killers, but they target other serial killers, and their job is to basically only target people that do horrible things. So pedophiles or people that go after. So like they're getting rid of the bad guys, let's say. So you kind of feel better about their killing. But yeah, I am super excited about this one. I think the author recently posted that she was reviewing the script as well. So I know that she's involved in the process, which gives me plenty of good feelings about it. I think that it's probably going to translate really well. And with the author being involved, I think it's probably going to have exactly the vibe that she was seeing for the story. So overall, I just can't wait for this to be on the screen. Definitely.
Yes, this is very exciting. Again, I love serial killers, so I'm here for it. But let us know your thoughts in the comments if you're watching us live. But of course, replay crew, we love to hear from you. So share your thoughts in the comments as well.
Also, I think that the difference with what serial killers are super popular right now, there's like both of these. Yes, in this second one, both are serial killers, but there's a lot of female serial killers. So I think the thread of why there's a lot of that right now being popular and being adapted is the thread of female rage. I think that that's probably what's driving the push for that.
No, definitely. So yeah, let us know your thoughts in the comments, everyone. Now we are switching as we're going to get into our last adaptation, and our last adaptation news is from Deadline. Again, link in the video's description, but they released that Powerless TV series based on YA fantasy books in works at Amazon from the Maxton Hall's Daphne Ferrero. Okay, so basically the book, so the book is entitled Powerless, and this is by the author Lauren Roberts. So this is what is going to be adapted. Now, according to Deadline, Prime Video, that is already the home of YA hits The Summer I Turned Pretty, Maxton Hall, and Culpables, and sprawling fantasy, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, is looking to mix the genres with Powerless, this series, which is new in development at Amazon MGM Studios. Now, the romantic that is being adapted, and this is going to be based on the first novel first, because that's what they're saying. They want the first season to follow the first novel, and they said another book will be coming out in the fall, or it came out in the fall. But anyway, so Powerless is set in the kingdom where the elite reign supreme with their breathtaking powers and hunt those who don't have powers. So we have our main character, Payden, a powerless ordinary who has spent years scraping by as a thief in the slums, but who is hiding right after the king and her father were, for YouTube purposes, unalived, okay? But anyways, so there's other books in the series and so on. They're going to build out the kingdom is what they're saying. There's going to be purging trials as well, which is basically, big old competition. We love a trial, I feel. And I think that would translate good on screen. But of course, they're saying a big thing will be they want a great showrunner. Another big challenge they acknowledge they might have to face in adapting this will be budget, because they're going to have to really put together a really great world. But yeah, so they're really excited about this one. I mean, Fran, what are your thoughts on this adaptation news?
I'm going to be the controversial hater. So I will not watch that. I haven't read it. So here's the thing. Backstory is the fact that when this book released, there was a lot of chatter online and a lot of people doing side-by-side comparisons between this book and The Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. And there is so much similarity in the storyline. Not that it's plagiarized as in word for word, but it's the same story.
Is that book?
Yes.
Yes. But everyone, I'm legit.
With all of that being said, also at the time when this book came out, the author was comparing it to Red Queen. So it was like, in the promo, it's like, oh, if you're a fan of Red Queen, you would love this, blah, blah, blah. Shortly, the publisher was doing that as well. Shortly thereafter, they removed all of those comparisons from the internet, of course. And like they were now comparing it to other things or whatever. So I know she probably didn't plagiarize the actual copy of the book, but when you're so heavily inspired that it's like the queen and the trials and the love interest is like the prince of everything was exactly the same. So I will not read it. I will not watch it. I know that it's super popular, so it will do really well, but I will be the controversial hater and I will not support it.
Okay, if y'all are watching us live, but also a replay crew, we want to hear from you as well. Did you hear about the drama? See, now I'm here on this live show, like mind blown. I did hear about this controversy. My good friend Jacqueline, hey Jacqueline, hope you're watching, told me about this because Jacqueline loves Victoria Aveyard. Actually, she turned me on to Victoria Aveyard, full disclosure. So yeah, love Jacqueline. But I remember hearing about this. I just didn't realize this was the book. And I do remember she was sharing about it and then backtracking because of everything. But I'm like, why would you backtrack? Just stand in it.
I mean, at that point, right?
Because to me, that is an indicator of guilt. But maybe I'm just, I don't know, something's probably wrong with me. But you let us know your thoughts in the comments. I mean, the book is getting this big adaptation rollout. So why didn't they pick up Victoria Aveyard's book? I'm looking sideways now. I'm looking sideways. I'm probably going to have to go down a rabbit hole. But let us know your thoughts. Again, you don't have to agree with us. You can be the contrarian to our opinions too. I'm just shook because I didn't realize this was that book.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So that is it for adaptation news. And actually, that's it for today's episode. Again, if you're just joining us live, I know you're a tad bit late because we're closing things out. But today we talked about audiobooks. We got into what we're watching. We talked about this week's new releases. We shared some Sarah J. Maas news. We also shared TikTok publishing news. And we just wrapped up 3 book-to-screen adaptations. But again, we gather here every Thursday, 12 noon Eastern time. We have a theme and then we, build a show around it. So next week's theme is going to be Caribbean book recommendations, books in the Caribbean, books by or about the Caribbean. We're just going to take you to the islands, okay? Because it's summertime. So let's go somewhere else through the books we're reading. We're also going to get into some beach reading recommendations. But just in case you don't already know, if you're new here, we had our summer reading episode. All right. So you can go back to the replays and check that one out. But we're really going to focus on some beach reading as well. And then in the weeks ahead, we're going to be talking about aliens. We're going to get into books with disabilities and books with weddings because summer is also wedding season. So you have a lot to look forward to. Be sure to subscribe to both our channels and hit the notification bell so you're the first to know what's new when we go live and when we put up new videos as well. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.